Welcome to another episode of Floater Gang. Today we're going to be doing another head-to-head. Arguably the two best players in the NBA, Jokic and Embiid. It's the great debate of this time. Who's better? And I think we're going to start with Marvin. What are your thoughts?
I mean, obviously the last three MVPs have gone to these two guys. So I don't think there's too much of a question about if they're the two best guys. But
Hmm.
now we got to figure out who's the better one. I think this season the or Embiid is a bigger or more valuable piece to the Sixers than Jokic is to the Nuggets. I mean, just to start off with records. Um, the Nuggets without Jokic, which is pretty invalid point just because it's been one game. They're 1-0, but like I said, it's just been one game. To whereas the Sixers, they're 3-7 without Embiid, and I think they even started 0-4, 0-5 in the first few games that Embiid didn't play. So they needed to get used to it playing without him. But even looking at the stats, I mean, they besides assists, Embiid is basically better at everything else. He does turn it over a little more too. But I think Embiid is more of a um I don't know how to say it, powerhouse kind of he's more of a powerful scorer for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he does average 10 more points. He averages the same assists. He's a better defender. I think he's a more rounded player. And even though the assists is pretty far off with averaging, we have seen that this season Joel Embiid has figured out how to play make when he needs to. He has had those double-digit assist games. So I think that's really promising for him. So I think based off this season, Embiid is having the better season than Jokic.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. So just looking at his stats and preparing for this, he may be having the greatest season of this century, I would say. 35 points a game, over 50% shooting. And, shooting 36% from three, it's solid. Obviously, around 11 rebounds, around two blocks. And he's missed the most fourth quarter. Like he doesn't play a lot of fourth quarters. So his stats are could have been even higher. Obviously, he has the most 40-point games this year. He's missed quite a few games, so I don't know if he'll there. I mean, there is a concern that he might not get the MVP just because of missed
Mhm.
games, but either way, right now I think he might be the unanimous MVP right now. He's been so good. And he's just leveling up every year. The only question, my only question for Embiid is the playoffs, and uh, we've seen it year after year. The Sixers or just Embiid in general, they just underperform in the playoffs. He's 0-5 in the second round, which is an insane stat. It's just like they had Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, and I guess they only had them 1 year. But anyway, he never made it past the second round. Um, and obviously his stats always drop in the playoffs. So I think the next step for Embiid is to, just perform in the playoffs.
Mhm.
Um, and then I think he could make the argument that he's better than Jokic. And I mean, and I consider Jokic a borderline top 15 player of all time. And I think he'll finish in the top 10, just at the pace he's at. I mean, so I think Embiid's right there. He's just got to show it in the postseason.
Yeah.
So you're saying Jokic is still better than Embiid.
Yeah, I'll still take Jokic. And Jokic, and we all always talk about like, oh, Embiid's impact on both ends elevates him, but Jokic in the playoffs last year, like in the regular season, he doesn't try as hard on defense, but in the playoffs, he had a 107 defensive rating, which would be top 10 in the NBA during the regular season.
Yeah, he's just because he looks like a fat walrus, we've gotten used to that it doesn't matter for his offense. But it
Yeah.
turns out it doesn't matter for defense either.
Hmm.
Apparently, you can just be fat and immobile and you can still play
Yeah.
great defense. And just for his regular season stats this season, he's averaging almost a block, zero point 0.9 blocks, and 1.1 steals as a
Hmm.
center. And Embiid, of course, is doing amazing things too, but that's not too much different. He's averaging a block more, but he's averaging and he's slightly more steals. We know Embiid's a better defender
Yeah.
without doubt. But those are impressive defensive stats for you. They impress me, and I was always on that side. Jokic is not as bad as we say he is on defense. He's actually surprisingly good, but he's better than I thought. At least just steal and block wise.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. I'll definitely take Jokic right now. Very impressed with what Embiid's done. I'll take Jokic to just how he elevates his team. Fun fact, we've talked about this kind of before a while ago. This season right now, Embiid is averaging his highest usage rate ever. People talk about he's had those impressive stats, and he has in those short minutes. He's still averaging 34 minutes, so he's overall still getting a lot of minutes, putting crazy stats,
Yeah.
having a 12% higher usage rate than Jokic. So there's several things you can take from the usage rate. For one, you can make the argument, or try to defend what Marvin said, that Embiid's more important to his team right now than Jokic is, and I think that supports that. And at the
Hmm.
same time, also just like statistically, Embiid's numbers should theoretically be better, and they are in most parts. Obviously, Jokic, without doubt, is still a much better playmaker. He's just one of the best, I think, in the league, despite being a center. He's averaging less
Yeah.
turnovers than he ever has since he started averaging around 20 points. So he's been incredibly efficient. He's averaging just slightly less assists than last season, which was career high. I think like almost a whole assist. So Jokic is having a phenomenal year too. Obviously not as much of a pure scorer and just a little bit less of a focus to his game. But again, to Deacon's point, in the playoffs, I mean, we saw him putting up like 35 consistently. It's not really something he struggles with when it needs to be done. He's really just kind of a team first kind of guy. But definitely Embiid's taking a whole nother leap. And I think this playoff for him is as big as any this season. So it'll be really exciting to see him. So I'll take Jokic hands down. I don't think that comes to surprise to
Hmm.
anybody that knows me. But
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've always been an avid Embiid defender amongst you guys. And I mean, this season he's proven me right to an extent, but obviously it just doesn't matter till the playoff. Because we've seen in the past, Jokic elevates in the playoffs, Embiid doesn't. And that's the separator right there. And I think Embiid just needs one playoff run. I mean, we saw this early on in Giannis's career. He wasn't amazing in the playoffs. Like the Heat kind of had the formula of stopping him. They just built a wall, and he struggled. And they had lots of early round exits, but he got over that hump. He finally won a championship, and since then he's been unbelievable in the playoffs. And so I think that just needs to happen once for Embiid. And I mean, this has to be the year, really.
hmm
Uh, their roster's awesome. They have a ton of free agents. Maxi's going to get paid soon. Tobias isn't expiring. Um, you got to make a run here. I think he feels the pressure, and if they don't, there's some serious issues, and I don't know how much longer I could defend Embiid.
No, I agree. I think this year, I mean, they're going to make the playoffs, and he's going to have to prove this year that he can, whether they win or lose in the first round or second round. I don't think it matters as much for him, but as long as he's putting up the numbers he know like we know him to put up, I think at least for him he'll prove himself. But if they get out first or second round and he's choking in the playoffs like we know he does, then I think he it can take a whole uh chunk off how people look at his career just because he
Mhm.
can never perform in the postseason. He has a new coach. Like we said, Maxi has a great year this year too, really a great team. So I really think this year, he has to take that step to not even step, but he has to just continue to be doing what he does in the regular season throughout the
Yeah,
postseason. And if he doesn't, I think that could be really detrimental to his career.
yeah, I
yeah,
think that's huge. And I think another thing that he needs to start doing, and it's been part of why he choked, is what he's really been great at. And that's why his assist numbers have taken a leap. He's really learned to make the right play. The
yeah.
more, if I get two guys on me, can I score on them at a pretty high clip? Well, much higher than most guys? Yeah, sure. But can I get my guys involved, let them catch a rhythm, get an open three to a guy that can make an open three? Yeah. So let's make that play. And he's really starting to
Hmm.
learn that. And that's really, really important for just being a great player overall, and especially in the playoffs. But
Yeah,
I think on that note, I think we can wrap this up. I think we're all taking Jokic. He's just still better than Embiid, and no hard feelings for Embiid. Jokic is crazy good.
yeah.
So drop your comments on who you think wins, and we'll see you all next time. That's all we're getting out.